today?
So our first call was just moments after what appeared to be the worst part of the storm had passed through Geneseo, kind of the upper half of the village, in the area of Upper Center Street, Highland Road, Lima Road, Route 20A. Once that had passed, our first call was for a tree down on a car on Center Street. So many of our members responding were cut off and couldn't get to the firehouse, several on Lima Road, and several trying to come up Center Street. So you trying to use alternative routes, trying to get to the firehouse, to initiate a response. While I was on Center Street with a tree across the road and wires down on the road, on the sidewalk, I'm observing vehicles driving on the sidewalk to go around down trees that are on the road. So for any first responder, downed wires are one of the most dangerous things that you can encounter. And when you have downed wires, you treat them as if they are live. I was witnessing vehicles driving over all types of wires. And at the same time, it was still raining and you've got wet ground. You might know if a down line comes into contact with that water, that current can travel anywhere and be pretty hazardous.
Which makes an even more dangerous situation for you responding.
It does. And the place I had stopped on Center Street, I had told some people to go back into their residences, not to touch anything, that the area was unsafe. While I'm doing this, there are cars that are still driving on the sidewalk to go around the downed trees that were blocking the roadway.
As several people described a tree coming down on a car in which an individual was trapped in the car.
So while I was there on Center Street for the initial response, one of my firefighters called from Lima Road, called me direct and said, in front of my residence, I have a vehicle with a tree on it and a person inside that's trapped. At that point, that call became priority. Our response from the firehouse did get underway. It was slightly delayed with an alternative route using Route 20A and Volunteer Road. We were able to get more resources into that incident there, and we were able to free the person from the vehicle with a chainsaw and cutting the limbs away from the car.
The person is okay?
Yeah, non-life-threatening injuries and transported to a hospital for, to be checked out. But, they appeared to be okay, but the vehicle suffered some significant damage from the tree limbs that came down on it. And in that same general area, wires came down in all different directions, including primary wires, which at the very top of the pole, those are the highest voltage and are really dangerous. So we had a lot of citizens coming out, taking a look, see what was going on, looking to help and so forth. Fortunately, nobody was injured by any lines that were down or any further falling trees and so forth. It appeared that most of that damage had already happened and there wasn't any subsequent tree falls and so forth.
And now we're a few hours after the storm. Cleanup is still going on. It's going to probably be going on for a while. But as far as injuries, have there been any reports of injuries related to the storm?
The only injury that we are known to have is the person in the vehicle on Lima Road. So unfortunately, we haven't had any other injuries as a result. We've had a couple of building alarms since that are related to the storm with electrical malfunctions and battery backup issues that it caused a little trouble.
Because it did sound like there was a period early this evening where the fire siren was going off quite frequently. So
we had
you guys were getting a number of calls.
One was a motor vehicle accident on Lakeville Groveland Road at Stapley Road, not storm related. And then the alarm went off at the Geneseo Central School, which the cause of the alarm there was some transformers in some equipment that malfunctioned and smoked. There was no damage other than to the electrical box to which they were stored in. But I would put the cause of those as a fluctuating power issue in the power supply. And then we had another building alarm, and the alarm went off as a result of the system going into a malfunction as a result of not having any power.
And it seemed that the extent of the damage really was kind of confined to a particular area of the village. It was maybe not as wide. It was maybe not as widespread as one might have expected.
I think that the rain and the wind was extensive throughout the village, but it seemed to be there was one particular area, as I described before, on the upper half of the village where it was the worst. It seemed as though the utility companies, RG&E and National Grid, where it applied, have had crews out. Our DPW staff, our water and sewer staff have been out and really had most of the roadways opened very quickly, except where they were compromised by power lines
Right.
that were down. So, they made quick work to make sure things were opened up, and if there was an unsafe situation with a tree and a limb and so forth, they did their best to take care of that as soon as possible. So that was a big help.
Has there been any indication from any agency, say the National Weather Service, about whether or not this was a tornado or a different kind of storm?
Geez, that's a good question. It'd be interesting to find that statistic out later.
Okay, so haven't had that contact yet.
No,
Okay.
haven't heard anything. But
Okay.
I know. Just happened to be a bad afternoon,
Yeah.
and luckily, I think we came away in okay shape at this point, and
After this afternoon's and evening's response, what's next? What is there for the fire department or other first responders to do?
I think at this point, unless there's an emergency, then it's life-threatening, or imminent danger to property. We're on a 911 basis. There isn't anything else. I think one thing that concerns me the most is to remind people that downed lines, whatever they may be, should be treated as live power and are extremely dangerous. There were places where people were walking, vehicles that were driving, where it was really unsafe and very, very risky. It's very high hazard when you have power lines down that then are mixed in with communication cable and so forth, or you have poles that are damaged. And you really don't know what's going to happen, and it's extremely dangerous. And people really need to take notice to that.
And potentially their lines could be down for the next couple of days.
Hopefully not, but there are always those isolated areas that might have issues. It looks like there's a good number of power crews out there from RG&E and National Grid, and we're pretty appreciative of those workers. They do a great job, and they know when we're involved. They definitely do their best to tend to things that really need attention, that are dangerous, and they do their best out here. And we really appreciate that. But again, safety is the number one factor here, and one of those situations where you're best to stay inside your home. If there are trees falling and so forth, or there's that kind of severe weather, is to not keep driving, get to a safe area, and take shelter. And that was certainly the case. And then, later on, sort of the curiosity of what's going on out there can be hazardous for us too, to have people out there in areas that have not been checked out by the fire department or other first responders, and certainly have not been checked out by a utility company to make sure they're safe, and that's concerning. So, but so far so good right now.
Good. Thank you.
You bet.